Hello there, fellow truth seekers. This is Doug coming to you again on this here Shabbat. Just want to say I hope all you folks had a blessed couple of weeks. Wasn't here. I didn't do any videos last week. I was a little under the weather. I don't know what it was, but I mean I was hurting all over. All my joints hurting and my head hurting, and but I didn't have like no cough or nothing like that, and it lasted a couple of days, couple of 3 days, and and then now, we're I guess about like most of the country, we're buried in snow, and I think it's probably about 15 degrees outside right now, and that's supposed to, I think 16 they're saying going to be the high today, so. But I know for the folks up there in the northern tier, they really been getting blasted with some really cold weather and a lot of snow. I mean, they were saying we was only going to get like 2 or 3 inches, and I think we probably got closer to a foot. And even now, I mean, today it's been little flurries, off and on. Um, just you know crazy weather. Up until this system come in, we really hadn't had much in the way of cold weather, or I mean, we've had some rain and stuff, but we hadn't really had no snow or no threat of snow. And of course, here where we're at, it's one of these. We're in the mountains, and it's kind of, you can get inclement weather fairly early here, but the last few years we really hadn't had a whole lot, and I guess it's making up for lost time because now we're starting to get it, and the cold especially, is supposed to be in the single digits around here for the next couple of days. And a woman was saying earlier that now there's, because it was supposed to moderate, and next week it was supposed to get warm up, get back up into the 50s. Well, now she said that they're saying that it's not, and it's really, it's just really putting a damper on us. I mean, on business, and but we just, we're going to trust in the Lord, and hope you folks will pray for us, that we'll weather this. This is generally the slow time for us anyway every year, but it's especially hard this year. But we're going to trust in the Father to look out for us and take care of our needs. And, if it is what it is. We just have to, because I know it's hard on everybody now. I mean, it's not just us, but but what I'd kind of like to talk about today, as far as scripturally, is of course current events, things that are going on. And it's just funny, that. Why people would announce what their plans are and what they're doing. I mean, of course, it's probably, leaks or something, because I don't think they would want people to know. But you have all these elite, your Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Larry Ellison and all the tech giant billionaires that are building these deep underground bunkers everywhere now. Buying up huge tracts of land, mainly farmland or plantations, like over in Hawaii, pineapple plantations and stuff like that, and or buying islands and building these huge. I think as Mark Zuckerberg's building one over there in Hawaii, $270 million bunker. And I mean, they it's funny, they all in a big hurry. Well, I think that they are privy to things that are going to be taking place. And there in Revelation it talks about how they'll, because whenever the calamities start befalling the world and the earth is shaken, the whole earth is shaken, and the firmament is shaken. And it says the stars fall like figs that are shaken, ripe figs in a strong wind, that is shaken. That these stars, well, that's the firmament shaking them loose, and they're going to be coming down here. And not only that, but where it talks about the dragon and Michael fighting and the dragon being cast back down here. Well, these people, they are. And I've talked about that. I mean, some of them are just, people, that are just being used or possessed by demonic and satanic entities. But some of them are actually hybrids. I truly believe that. I mean, that Mark Zuckerberg to me looks, when you look at that guy, he almost reminds me in some ways of Data on Star Trek, The Next Generation. I mean, if you're familiar with that show, he's kind of got that look about him, like he's just not something normal. And my understanding is he's also related to the Rothschilds, and I've talked about that before, about these hybrid families, bloodlines. And if you do the research on it, you can go one in particular person that which he was a Mason, a 33rd degree Mason, and he's not really. He's satanic or demonic, but he was the official genealogist for the royals of Europe, and that's Lawrence Gardner. And he wrote about the Grail line, the bloodlines, the Grail lines, extensively. And he had access to all of the private libraries of the royalty there in Europe, so that he could trace out their genealogies. And they are, in this bloodline, they go beyond, above and beyond to protect that bloodline. Even, incest, marrying within their own families and stuff to keep that bloodline going. And, that's why whenever you see where they marry outside of it, there was a big brouhaha, like with Princess Diana and, who was it, King George VI abdicated the throne and married outside of the Grail line or whatever. Well, they were not happy about that. And it's still, they to this day, I mean, they don't, so the point I'm making here is that they are in the know. They know what their side is planning on doing, and I truly believe that they have the intention. I mean, because if again, you got to listen to what these people tell you. I mean, they tell you in advance, what they intend on doing. I mean, and then you look and you wait, and you'll see that these things start happening. And it's funny that the Georgia Guidestones down there in, I forgot the name of that little place out in the middle of nowhere, basically. And it had it signed R. Christos or something like that, Rosicrucians or whatever, or Freemasons, which I think they finally did kind of determine who it was that commissioned this thing to be built and paid for it. But they had their 10 commandments on there, and one of those was to get the world's population to 500 million or less and maintain it there. Because they preach this, the earth can't sustain all the people that are on it. And in fact of the matter, I mean, when you look at the total occupiable land mass of the world, you could put the whole population of the current population of the world, which is around 8 billion, you could put them into the state of Texas, and people would still have plenty of room. I mean, it's a big lie. The problem it has been is mismanagement of the resources of the earth, and the constant conflict, war, and hatred between people. And it just causes nonstop misery. I mean, and the exploitation of people. If you take for example, sub-Saharan Africa and all, where you constantly have little conflicts going on there, and you have these, authoritarian thugs, that get control. They get the biggest. They'll have the biggest little army or whatever. They get together, and they will have a coup, and they'll take over, and they take all the wealth and to themselves, and the people suffer. And you have famine and starvation and just people, and it's in other places as well. South America, you have the same kind of stuff going on down there, and the truth be known. The powers that be, the big boys, the big powers, are the ones responsible for it. They keep everything destabilized, and rather than my take on helping people, the less fortunate in the world and stuff, is the old saying about teaching a man to fish. If you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. Well, we never do that. No, what we do is we just send a whole bunch of stuff over there because it enriches somebody. Somebody, the people supplying the food or the water or whatever, get rich. They make a lot of money off of it. And those people, they eat for a little while and they drink water for a little while, but then they get right back where they were at. Well, rather than wasting all that money and enriching a few people, why not go over there and, set up training programs to train people, and teach them about agriculture, sustainable agriculture, and help them to learn how to drill wells to where they can get clean water and stuff. And there are people that do that, but man, they get fought against tooth and nail by these powers. And so that's the source of most of this is the MIC, the military industrial complex. That's why you continue to have wars and conflicts all the time. They do not want a world at peace. That's the reason that the Messiah is going to have to come back and put them down, because they still, they do not want it. Because they get, a whole lot of people are getting wealthy off of it. Politicians, that are paid to pass laws and bills and stuff that enrich these people, and then they, encourage them to keep conflict going somewhere, and they will do false flags and stuff like that to start something, and then to try and justify our involvement in it. I mean, look at Ukraine. I mean, it's just on and on. Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya. I mean, all these different countries, that we've went in and spent, over years, we've spent trillions upon trillions of dollars. We get poorer. Those people, it engenders hatred for us. I mean, just a deep hatred. Not a surface hatred. I'm talking about a deep, deep hatred for America and the people of America. Even though, a lot of times we got no skin in the game. We don't have nothing to do with it. We just have to go with the flow of what these people up here in Washington and NATO and all that bunch, what they determine they want to do, and they propagandize using the fake media, because the mainstream media is nothing but a propaganda operation. To feed feed us lies and a narrative. To push a narrative. If like go back to 9/11, the World Trade Centers. Well, if you do enough research on it, and buddy, I'm gonna tell you what they have, and it's difficult. I mean, you're gonna have a hard time doing any research, finding any video footage or anything else, because they have scrubbed it. I mean, and for the weeks preceding the event, it was nonstop. It was nonstop on the news media, and now you can't hardly find anything. How is that? How is it that for several months following that, I mean, that was 24/7 on the news, in your face, about what happened, building a narrative. And then now, 20 years later, 20 plus years later, if you go and try to look up any of that stuff, you can't find it. I mean, they have, pretty much stripped it from the internet, because when you really start looking at the video footage of them towers and really start studying them and stuff, you'll find out that they was, controlled demolitions. Buildings, that are hit like, and by the way, those buildings were built to withstand the direct impact of a 747. I mean, they were engineered for that, and also they were engineered to withstand like 130, 40 mile an hour winds, like a hurricane, full strength hurricane winds. So those buildings did not come down from being hit by a jet, and they come straight down. I mean, I watched a lot of controlled demolitions, of buildings. I mean, just out of curiosity, and I've even went and watched one up there when I lived in North Carolina. And, it's they did, they blast. Well, if you look at that old footage of them buildings standing there, you can see these explosions going off. And of course, they're going to say, oh, conspiracy theory, Well, if you, like I say, if you do the research around it, and there is people, there's a guy, Patrick Wood, he has a YouTube channel, Technocracy or something like that, about what is coming, what they are pushing us towards, which is a technocracy, where we're going to be everything's going to be controlled through technology. And of course, I've talked about this kind of stuff on here, at different times about, AI and, the integration of technology and the social credit scores like they got over in China now, because China's the testing ground for this stuff. The West has been going over there developing a lot of this technology, the monitoring and the spying and, the internet tracking and phone tracking and facial recognition software and, a whole host of different types of technologies that have been created and then implemented over there in China. What better place? I mean, because you got over a billion people there. So if you can, perfect this stuff with that large of group of people as you're testing your guinea pigs or whatever, and then you implement, because they've already implemented a digital currency over there and a social credit score, so they're using the digital currency as a way to control and modify people's behavior, to carry it in the stick. And of course, we see, that we've got people that are wanting to push back against the digital currency here in the United States, and they they even now got Donald Trump, wanting they won't be one under me. Well, the thing of the matter is people can say whatever they want, but the powers the real powers that be are going to have this system. I mean, the scriptures tells us that it's going to come, and there's nothing that anybody here on the earth is going to do about it. But I think that, like, they trying to feed us a dose of copium. They want us to believe that there's a chance. There's a chance to we can do this and we can fight against this here. And in reality, they know that it's coming. But it's to try to draw your attention. It's just like what happened over there in Russia whenever they had the Bolshevik Revolution. When it was going on, they kept saying, yeah, we got people on our side, in the military, and they just kept making people have hope when they knew that there wasn't really any hope. It was all theater, man. It was all to make people believe that they was a chance of make America great again. And really there wasn't. For one, you're not going to thwart our Creator's intentions toward us. We're under judgment. And, whether people want to believe it or not, you can't make people believe stuff, if they just blinded to it. But I've talked about Deuteronomy chapter 28 many, many times. And if you go in there and read it and really study it, you'll find that you can parallel what happened to the house of Israel and ultimately to the house of Judah too. But what happens to you, and you can see these things happening. I mean, they're happening pretty much in the same kind of order as they happen, as it says it'll happen there in Deuteronomy 28. And we're seeing it. But it starts out, just a little bit and a little bit, but it gets more and more and more, and it's to try to get people to repent. When you first have a little calamity or whatever, it's the Father, He's merciful and long-suffering with us. He don't want us to perish, and He don't want us to be destroyed. But there is consequences for unrighteousness and sin. I mean, and so if we don't repent of it, and you look at all these churches that they, come down here and say a little prayer and, ask forgiveness and you're good to go. But they never tell them to repent. They never tell them to repent, and they don't tell them what they're repenting of. I mean, and except a nation, except as a nation, and you can go read the story of Jonah and the great fish, and find out what he was doing was going over there and warning the people in Nineveh to repent, that they were going to be destroyed in 40 days. And the king, when he saw this, and I mean, something just come on him, and he knew that what Jonah was telling them was true. He repented, and he commanded the whole nation to repent. And they even put their animals, sackcloth and ashes on their animals. And had a solemn, like a week of repentance. Well, unless America does that, there's nothing going to stop that judgment that's coming. And that's why these people are going and building these, because they know it's coming. They know this judgment's coming, and they think somehow or another they are going to be, able to escape the judgment that's going to come. And it ain't just on America, it's on the whole world. I mean, and that's why here, I mean, if you listen, this is in Joel chapter 3. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, and he did, 1948, he brought them from captivity, from being scattered and all. I will gather all nations and I will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel. And that's not just the Jews, that's all of Israel. Because at this time, the people, the ancient house of Israel, those people, they're going to be in captivity. And really, whenever these, when you read there in Revelations about the northern army going down into, against the kings of the south, and they take control of Jerusalem, well, they're going to, Judah's going to go into captivity or into enslavement again too. But the house of Israel too. But see, he says, he pleads with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel. And he's talking about all of Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. And they've parted his land over there, divided it up, and Gaza, the West Bank, and they're wanting to even go further than that. When you listen to the United Nations and different political entities, president up here, and when you began to look here, this very chapter, it says, and they have cast lots for my people, and given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for a drink, for wine that they might drink. Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon? That's Lebanon. And all the coast of Palestine, Gaza. That's that was Philistia, the Philistines. And they never wiped out those Philistines over there or in Gaza, the Amorites. They didn't get rid of these people like they were supposed to, and because of it, they've had trouble with them ever since. If you go back and read in Joshua and all, I mean, Joshua got rid of all the people that he was able to get rid of during his lifetime. But afterwards, there was people that they let live that they shouldn't have let live, and now they come back to haunt them. The Philistines troubled them from then on out. I mean, David and was fighting with and Saul. They was fighting with the Philistines all the time, and so and to this day, they're having issues with them. It says, yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head? And it's happening. Because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. And I will sell your sons and daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabaeans, to a people far off, for Yahweh hath spoken it. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves, and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither. Cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be weakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get ye down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem. That's when the Messiah comes back to execute judgment, the wrath, the day of the Lord. And this is, of course, this is in Joel, and that's what Joel's mostly about, is the day of the Lord, which is at the very end there of the tribulation period. It says, the Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice, and from Jerusalem in the heavens, and the earth shall shake. But the Lord will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children of Israel. That's when the earth shakes and the heaven, the firmament, because he called the firmament heaven, and the earth shakes. That's when them bunkers and all they built down there in the ground are going to be shaken to the point where they collapse. And those people will be, they'll be coming out of there like ants coming up out of an anthill, and they'll be looking to go hide themselves in the mountains and in the rocks to hide themselves from the one who sits upon the throne. But they think for some, they're deceived. They really believe, and I saw some footage of these things, man. I mean, they are all out. I mean, the one that Zuckerberg's building, 57,000 square feet. State-of-the-art cooling systems and water filtration systems, air purification systems, generator systems and stuff to produce electricity and power. They got grow rooms, big grow rooms where they grow their food. Animal place to store animals or whatever is proclivities to food is. Luxury. A luxury bunker. The kind of stuff you'd expect from the elite. And of course, when you look in Revelation chapter 5 and 6, about the horsemen of the apocalypse, the third horse, going around with the black horse with the scales in its hands, saying a measure of wheat for a denarius, 3 measures of barley for a denarius, and see that you hurt not the wine and the oil. Well, that's referencing to the rich. They're going to have theirs. They're going to have, everything that they need as far as food, wine and oil, as where the average working person, the plebes, the serfs, because that's what they look at us as, or chattel. That's all that we are to these people. Not worthy of life. And, and if we do or are allowed to live, then we are to work and serve them. But when you look at and I've talked about this, I think I might have even mentioned it last week, about how during Roman times, the average person, working person, just the average everyday Joe, would have to work all day for a denarius. And he could buy, a measure of wheat was enough to make a couple of little loaves like that of bread. Well, that was enough for that person. There wasn't enough there for anybody else, just for the person that worked all day for it. And I see that going on now. I see it going on now here. Where people are going out and they're working pretty much all day. They're not working at a company or nothing, but they come out and work at somebody, doing yard work or something like that, and they make enough money to really, maybe, maybe a little bit more than just for feeding themselves, but not much. I mean, it's just, it's coming like a freight train. I mean, accelerating freight train. And we were talking about it the other day about how it just seems like it ain't been no time since this the 1st of January, and now January's almost gone. Christ there in Matthew 24 and Luke 21 and all, he says, if the days wasn't shortened, no flesh should be spared, but for the sake of the elect, he will shorten the days. I believe that's exactly what's happening. I believe that the days are being shortened. Because we're, like I say, that calamity is charging along like a freight train that's accelerating, and and if he didn't speed it up, then nobody would be spared. No, the whole world would perish. I mean, be destroyed. People would all be destroyed. Because you got people, I mean, China just announced now of experiments they're doing on mice with these COVID type viruses. And on these mice, this virus was 100% fatal. I can't understand for the life of me why would you create something that is 100% fatal? Why not be trying to figure out how to make something to get rid of some kind of sickness or disease? Because that ain't what they want. The Georgia Guidestones get the population down below 500 million. Well, there's approximately 8 billion people in the world. So that means, according to their 10 commandments, 7.5 billion people need to go. Because they don't need people to do tasks anymore, or work. I mean, they can pretty much replace humans with automation, with AI. I mean, they pretty much, like I said, if you listen to the World Economic Forum, they have these forums over there every year at Davos, Switzerland, and it's a gathering of the elite from all over the world, and they all fly over there in their private jets. Oh, but we got global warming, or we got climate change issues. We got to do away with fossil fuels. They want to freeze us to death. Generate this weather, just using the weather modification and stuff, creating these crazy weather systems. And if you look over there in Germany, I mean, they had a big uprising over there. I mean, their farmers and truckers, I mean, they just blocked up the entire country, because of what they're wanting to do. And they've cut all their shut down nuclear power plants over there, and there's no more efficient way to generate electricity than nuclear. I mean, even though it has potential issues, but if you got nuclear power in an area that's stable and not along a coast or something where it's earthquake prone or tsunami prone, I mean, they're really an effective alternative, and they've got ways they've determined that they can sequester that stuff in glass. They can also I believe they've come up with a way that they can actually reuse it. They can take the spent nuclear or the uranium rods. They can take that and reuse it to make energy again. And then not only that, but they are a huge number of climate scientists from around the world that are calling these people out. For one, saying that one thing is that really we need more carbon in the air. for the trees and the plants and stuff, that the trees and plants are really starting to suffer. Because whenever you reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the air, it really stresses out plant life. I mean, instead they say right now it's like 400 parts per million or something like that in the atmosphere, and these a lot of these scientists are saying that it should be more like 1,000 parts per million. And and they want to sequester carbon dioxide, build these great big huge systems that will suck in the air and take the carbon out of the air and liquefy it or something, and then pump it down into the ground. I mean, it's insanity. Trees sequester carbon, and that just shows you the insanity of these people, and they've been brainwashed too. They've been deceived to believe that somehow or another they're going to be spared. That they're going to go on and they're going to have their utopia, when they get rid of all the people. See, Satan and his minions has, brainwashed these people. And, because, you think about it, if you have powerful entities like that are, revealing stuff to you, showing you, their capabilities, their technology, their knowledge, their wisdom, because they do have it, there's no doubt that they're very powerful. Then, it's easy because when you look at what it says about whenever they show up down here and possess the Antichrist and the beast and all, how they will do miracles, signs, and wonders to deceive people. I believe it's technology, that they'll be using advanced technologies to do miraculous things. And it's, not just maybe healing people and stuff, calling fire down out of heaven. That could be done now through technology. Advanced weapon systems that are deployed up in near the aether. But not only that, but making peace, doing stuff that people thought couldn't be done as far as geopolitically could also be considered a miracle. And, again, I'm not going to go off on the same subject I did last time, but I'm just saying, listen. Listen to what these people say. And I'm just saying, and even people, just as a kind of an add-on to what I said last time, the head of J.P. Morgan Chase, which is, this bank is so huge. The guy that is what is his name? Larry Diamond or something like that. J.P. Morgan Chase Bank does $7 trillion a day in activity through their banking system. $7 trillion a day. To just give you an indication of how big this bank is and how powerful. And he was over there at Davos. They're having that. They were having that all this past week. Their big forum over there at the World Economic Forum, and he was there. And of course, you got that guy Javier Milei, the new president of Argentina. He laid into him. He laid into him over there. They were just like, they couldn't believe this guy. I guarantee he won't be invited back. But that Larry Diamond, I think is his name or something like that, that is the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, he was over saying, really, Trump was right about a lot of things. And the media that was interviewing him, they were like speechless. They couldn't believe this guy, this elitist, that's a part of the group that's been trying to get rid of him, according to them. You see. And it's funny how now even these people are coming out saying, yeah, maybe he was right. Maybe, he did do, things were kind of rolling good when he was in there and all that. Well, again, they all are part of the same thing, you see. And so, and with all the things that are going on, I mean, like like there in Iowa, a record, blowout, the difference between what he got in votes or whatever and what the nearest competitors got. I mean, just blowout. And the same thing's going to happen there. They're saying it's going to happen there in New Hampshire. And of course, once that happens, there's pretty much the rest. They just give him the nomination because the other ones they don't have a chance. Well, and I talked about too, how all these different constituencies that were under the other party are being, are moving over to the other side. Because the other side is the political party of identity politics. You join all of these little minority groups together, what they call the disaffected, or the affected people that, the minorities and gender, and you bring them all together in a coalition and to form a strong party. But it's fragile because, if one of them, if you do something, and of course when you see what's going on here in Israel, the Palestinians over here protesting and all that stuff, and the White House siding with Israel, and so now that constituency that supported him, they're saying we're not going to support you. And we're going to vote against you, and we're going to campaign against you. All right. And then now you got the inner city people like in Chicago and in New York City and places like that where they're being disaffected by all of this immigration. And they're giving all these people that are coming in, these immigrants, putting them up in places, giving them, food stamps, giving them money, giving them phones, promising them jobs and all that kind of stuff, when the people that live there have always lived there. They ain't doing none of that for them. They're taking away from them and giving it to these people that broke the law to get here. Well, now you got them saying we're going to be campaigning against you. We're going to vote against you, and we're going to campaign against you to make sure that you don't get back into office. Well, so you can see how it's all kind of playing together. It's all, it's a big orchestration. Like I said the last time, it's kabuki theater, man. It's a big production, but it's on a global scale. So it's hard for people to imagine that they could do that. That how could well, they're being directed and orchestrated by these fallen powers. They've been planning all this for thousands of years. They've been planning the whole thing. I mean, so how can they do it? That's how. Because they've been orchestrating it from behind the scenes and planning it all out. And so now we're coming down to the end of it, and now we're in Act 3, where the curtains have been drawn back again, and now we're in the final act. And so, it's all coming out, and of course, he's saying that the Father allows all this, and he's giving everybody opportunity, but he says he's going to draw them all over there to the Valley of Decision over there to plead with them for his people, because they're going to be coming there to destroy them. And they got insiders. They got insider people inside Israel that are working with them. The Ashkenaz, I mean, the Zionists, I mean, and of course I'll be labeled, when I say something like that, they're going to want to say, you're anti-Semitic. No, I'm not. I love the Jewish people, the true Jews, the people descended from I love them other people too. I don't want them to be destroyed. But, if they are hybrids that, that have allowed their peoples to be manipulated and genetically changed and altered by these fallen ones. And of course, I've talked about that, there in Daniel chapter 2, where it talks about them mingling themselves with the seed of men. Well, who's the they? You got people say, oh, well, that's just other people. No, it's not being said in that way. It's saying, and they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Well, the they has to be something other than the seed of men. I mean, it has to be. Otherwise it say, well, the seed of men shall mingle with the seed of men. If it was other people, no, it's specifically indicating that it is something other than the seed of men. And when you go back to Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, where the seed war is declared, the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent. That's exactly what it's in. It's telling you that it's been going on all along. Is this seed war? And there before the flood, that's why the flood came. It wasn't just because of their wickedness. It was because everything had been corrupted genetically, and that's why Christ said that when he returned, it'd be like it was in the days of Noah. They'd be doing the same thing again, trying to genetically corrupt everything. And so if you have these genetically corrupted people that are in positions of power, the bureaucracy, then they're going to be right in there with it. They're going to, even if some of them are, unaware that they're being manipulated and used to orchestrate this big production, this Act 3 production. And, if you read in Amos there, like here it says, this is talking about Gaza, but it talks about Edom and Moab and Damascus, what's going to happen to them because of the way that they have treated Israel. Not just today, but all throughout time since Israel was brought into the land over there, and they were, the father destroyed the Amorites, who were like the cedars of Lebanon, and as stout as oaks. I mean, it even tells you that in here about how he did that. But one of the things is that and if you look, this is what's happened. They have stirred up the Lion of Judah. And if you go back here in Genesis chapter 49, and you look at where this is where Israel or Jacob is blessing, and he tells them, he says, and Jacob called unto his sons. This is Genesis chapter 49, verse 1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. He's telling them what's going to happen in the last days and who they are. I mean, and you can look at the descriptions of what he, his blessing or whatever on them, and his description of how they are. How their characteristics, and you can find when you begin to look at what their characteristics is, then you can begin to identify who they are today. But he says, Judah, this is in verse 8. Judah, thou art he whom the brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Thy father's children. Talking about these other his brothers. Judah is a lion's whelp from the prey. My son, thou art gone up. He stooped down. He couched as a lion. And as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? Well, they've roused him up. That's what's going on over there right now. As a old lion. You see, Israel's been, Judah's been around a while now. Started out as a whelp. Now it's an old lion that was crouched down, and they have roused them up. And if you listen to what Israel says, no matter what the United States or anybody else has been trying to pressure them into doing, they said, we are not going to stop until we destroy Hamas. And, and I can tell you right now, they ain't going to finish, they ain't going to stop there. They're going to go after Hezbollah too. And, and I really believe that, I've talked about that in, I think it's about 2 or 3 of my lessons back about what was going to happen. I believe was the Psalm 83 war. And ultimately, I mean, like I said, if you read on there in, if you read in the book of Amos, it talks about here, it says, thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Gaza, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they carried away captive the whole captivity to deliver them up to Edom. Which Edom, as I've discussed before, Edom was the descendants of Esau, and they hated Israel because they believed that, because of what happened between Jacob and Esau concerning the birthright and all. But it was Edom, it was Esau's own doing because he despised his birthright. He said, but I will send fire on the wall of Gaza and shall devour the palaces thereof. Well, if you look at the news footage of that place, man, I can tell you right now, it's being devoured. And I will cut off the inhabitants from Ashdod, and from that, and him that holdeth the scepter from Ashkelon. And I will turn my hand against Ekron, and the remnant of the Philistines shall perish, saith the Lord God. And they are the Philistines. Those people that are there in Gaza, they are descended from the Philistines. And like I said, because they did not destroy them back during the time of Joshua in that, when that book, if you read in that book there, and they were troubled by them from then on out, and to this day. And he said, and they shall perish. Thus saith Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Tyrus, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they delivered up the whole captivity to Edom, and remembered not the brotherly covenant. And he's talking about Edom not remembering the brotherly covenant whenever the entire Tyrus is Lebanon. If you go up there on the coast of Lebanon, there is Tyre, where ancient Tyre was at, the Phoenicians. And so, they're not going to escape either. Ultimately, it says, thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever. And I will send a fire upon Taman, which shall devour the palaces of Basra. Now, you got to understand, if this is Israel, it's kind of a long, narrow area. Well, over here you have Ammon, Jordan, what was Moab, and then down here Edom. And so, they it says, they're going to get punished too. And that's where Basra and all is over in that area. And it says, "Thus saith the Lord, for the 3 transgressions of the children of Ammon, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they have ripped up the women with child of Gilead, that they might enlarge their border. But I will kindle the fire in the wall of Rabbah, and it shall devour the palaces thereof." And I think there, when it talks about the Ezekiel, or the Psalm 83, it talks about Ammon, Jordan, being leveled like Damascus. Because, and of course the people there in Israel, it says that they will be like an olive tree, that has been shaken by a mighty wind, with just a few fruit there at the very top of the tree, and a few here and there out on the branches. Because so they're not going to escape from it either. They're going to suffer hard, and then. And I think that whenever this starts happening, and then you're going to have this Southern Confederacy or whatever of countries down in like Yemen and Egypt and Libya and Ethiopia and probably Elam and Persia or Iran. You're going to have them aligned, and they're going to come up against Israel. And that's when the kings of the north, and I don't know exactly who all is going to be a part of that kings of the north, but, it's obviously people, the Europeans, and, the Turkey's going to be, I think Turkey's going to end up being a part of the Eastern Alliance with the Russians and the Chinese, and, I don't know about India, how India is going to play into it, but, right now India sides with Israel, but when it comes down to right there toward the end, the whole world is going to turn against Israel, and they're going to all be gathered there. But it talks about this northern power coming down against the southern power, and like a whirlwind, and defeating them, and then they take possession of Jerusalem. See, and this is the way that the dark powers work is they play both sides against the middle. They're pushing these people down here, and they're pushing these people up here to come together to get possession of Israel, Jerusalem. Jerusalem's the real target, that's the reason where it talks about them being gathered over there to the valley of Jezreel, Armageddon, or Armageddon. They're gathered there. They're gathered there to go up against Jerusalem. So, Satan wants Jerusalem. That's, because that's the place that the Father established as his place here on the earth. The holy place. And so they're gonna, but the ultimate goal is to destroy Israel, because like I said, where it talks about how, I think it's in Matthew chapter 22 or somewhere like that, where it says that they won't, that the Messiah won't return until they say, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." That's going to be what trigger. Well, if you destroy the people of the Jewish people, they're not going to be able to say that. And so that would keep him from coming back. And it's not the whole of Israel that's got to say it. It's the Jews, the house of the Jew people of Judah, because they're the ones that were there when Christ was in, here on the earth walking. The house of Israel, they had, been scattered out, 5 centuries before, 6 centuries before that. So, I mean, it's not talking about them, it's talking about the Jews. And they are in the land, the Jews are in the land over there now, the people of Judah. But there's also others there too, and I just want people to be aware of that, and don't take my word for it. As I always say, I want you to study. I want you to, study the word, and then go set out to, go and try and match it up to the things that are going on around us. You can actually take the events that are going on in the world around us, and you can find the scriptures. When you read the scriptures, you can see how it's all playing out, how it's coming together. I mean, how like I just read there in Genesis 49. I mean, that was a long, long time ago. I mean, that was 3,000 years ago. Or more, actually, really more like 3,500 years ago. So, what Jacob, or Israel, because his name had been changed to Israel, what he's telling his children was going to befall them in the latter days. Well, and like an old lion, because, again, it's a long time ago. Judah's been around a long time. So it's like an old lion, that's crouched, that is raised, that has been roused up. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. They've been roused up like a lion. And they, the fact of the matter is that that little small country of Israel has got the 4th most powerful military in the world. I mean, that's something to be said, man. They're not somebody to be fooling with. And then, but you see, Iran, all their proxies, Gaza, the Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis down there in Yemen, they've been doing this for a long time, the Iranians. They've been putting these people around, they call it the Ring of Fire, putting it around them, surrounding them. And that's why I believe that this is the Psalm 83 conflict. It's not Ezekiel 38. No, that comes a little bit later because, Israel will end up not only defeating these people, but expanding their borders. And of course that will, talking about triggering them, that will really trigger all these people then. But, they have a right to be at peace. And the whole world, you can already see it. If you ever watch any of the rhetoric coming out of the United Nations, you can hear the vitriol. And now over there at the International Court of Justice, the ICU, South Africa, which is, it's ironic that South Africa was one of the people that is a part of the British Commonwealth that was descended from the ancient house of Israel, going against their own people. And that's why there in Amos, when you see what it's talking about Edom and Moab and Tyrus and Gaza and all them, but mainly specifically when it talks about Moab and Edom, because they are brothers and fellow kinsmen of Israel. Moab was the descendants of Lot, and Lot was Abraham's nephew. And then you got Jacob or Esau was the brother of Jacob, the son of Isaac. So that's why they're going to get judged harshly, because they have had this deep-seated hatred of Israel all the way back. And the thing is Esau and Jacob, they made peace. When he come back from over there, when he was laboring for Laban over there in Hazor or Haran, which is where Abraham's people was at. And he come back and he met with him, he met with Esau, and because he heard, that Jacob was coming, and he gathered up all of his mighty men and come to meet him, and at first, he had intentions of killing Jacob, but Jacob humbled himself before him. And they hugged each other, and Esau forgave him. But his descendants did not. They just kept it in their heart all the way down to this very day. And of course, because of it, they're going to suffer greatly for it. But I just kind of wanted to, because of all the stuff that's going on, I want to kind of tie it into some of the scriptures here so that you can, and that's how, too, you keep from being deceived. Whenever the scriptures has told us before, it says, I tell you before these things happen. So it's telling us before what will befall these peoples, and it all centers around Israel. What's going to befall Israel in the latter days. So if we go in there and look at what it says is going to befall them, and then you can look around you and you see these things actually happening to them, then that right there should strengthen your belief. That should, keep you from being deceived. That's to me. And then, Christ himself tells us whenever they say, here's Christ over here in the wilderness, or here over here in a room, don't believe it. Because this is the thing. When he comes back, the whole world is going to see it. He ain't going to be in a secret room. He ain't going to be out in a desert place. He is going to come, and the whole world is going to see him. So, the Antichrist and all that bunch, they can't deceive you if you understand that. If you understand that they don't just come out of some, he don't just come out of some, no. When he returns, the entire world is going to know it. They're going to see it. Because it says, hide us. They go into the rocks and into the caves and say, hide us from the one who sits upon the throne and his Messiah. So, there ain't going to be no doubt. There ain't going to be no doubt whatsoever. So anything that ain't that, don't believe it. Don't believe it. Because you can believe this, whenever he comes back, he don't come back as a lamb to be slaughtered. He comes back as a lion roaring out of Zion. No, he comes back as the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And, will rule the world with a rod of iron. So, don't be deceived by, these false messiahs and these false prophets. I've said again and again, if it doesn't go along with what this says, this is the foundation of truth. This is our foundation of truth. And if it doesn't go along with what this says, throw it out with the dishwater. Don't buy into it and don't believe it. And as the days draw closer to that time, it's all the more important. It's all the more important to know the truth. And the truth is found right there. And, Even if a lot of them places ain't the same names anymore, the national characteristics, the characteristics of the people, you can find out right in there by reading in Scripture. You can find out these people's characteristics and know who they are. Like what's going on there, Hamas, there, the Palestinians, no, the Philistines. And there was a never-ending conflict between Israel and them because they didn't wipe them out. And because they are, they're hybrid people, they're abominable people. And they worship Satan. That's, who Allah is Satan. And that's who they worship. And so, I don't want to see any innocent people, innocent civilians and stuff like that, hurt or killed in conflicts, but it does happen. Of course, they had no problem killing about 1,400 civilians, children, women, elderly. Just a massacre basically of the Hebrew people. But Israel goes out of their way, extraordinary means to avoid killing civilians. And of course, the people there in Gaza, they only have themselves to blame because they allowed Hamas to take over. They could have stopped them, but they didn't. And so they're suffering the consequences of it. And not only there, but they targeted Israel out of the West Bank too. And of course, they'll take care of that. And then Hezbollah, they're up in their attacks from up there in Lebanon, and them Houthis. Now we're involved in it. We're involved in it because of the shipping there through the Strait of, I think it's the Strait of Hormuz or whatever it is down there going into the Red Sea, stopping the international shipping, and now us and Britain's over there involved in it. You see how this stuff can escalate, but that's where you're going to have somebody, a peacemaker, that's going to come on the scene. Just saying, don't take what I say to be the gospel. You do your own homework, do your own study, be good Bereans, and, study this stuff out for yourself. Pray to have discernment. Pray for understanding, wisdom, and knowledge concerning the Word and the events that are going on in the world around us. Ask the Father to help you to connect the dots. And He will. If you truly seek Him, seek it in your heart. And so I'm going to, end it there. But, I want you folks to know I love you. I do this as an act of love because, I could be doing something else. I don't have to do this. But I want to, first and foremost, challenge you to study, to learn, to watch what's going on around you, and to prepare yourself spiritually, mentally, and physically to be able to stand up against what's coming. It's going to take that. It's going to take everything that we can, muster, and put on the whole armor of Elohim, that ye might be able to stand in the evil day, because it's on us. We are living in those times. And so I want you to be prepared. I want you to be armored up. And with that, I love you. I hope you folks will be blessed. And I will see you again on the next Shabbat if Yahuwah is willing.